At one point, I was working 8 different jobs, just trying to survive, trying to find out who I was, trying to do everything. People thought I was so successful, I was doing so much. And on the surface, it looked like I was doing a lot, and I wasn't doing it very well. That difficulty is pushing yourself to do something uncomfortable, which, let's be honest, most people, we just want comfort, we want safety. We don't want to push ourselves to do something different.
Sometimes people think about jumping and then they get to the end of their life and they're like, I wish I just jumped. And so it's incredible to hear, A, that you've done so much in your lifetime, B, that you put yourself in uncomfortable positions. What I think people forget is that you hear yourself the loudest when it's quiet. Communication is one of the most important skills that you can have in your life, because the way that I see it, all problems and solutions are rooted in communication. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inspired Authority. Most people think authority comes from having credentials. But what if authority is actually built every time you choose to use your voice? Most people aren't struggling with lack of talent. They're struggling with the fear to be seen. Today's guest has built a career around helping people share stories. But what's most interesting isn't the podcasting. It's what happens when someone decides their voice matters. From teaching, fundraising, stand-up comedy, and entrepreneurship, Neil Mackay has reinvented himself multiple times while helping thousands of people find their voice and share their stories. This conversation is about visibility, identity, courage, and what happens when you stop waiting for permission to be seen. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for that amazing introduction, and thank you for having me on Inspired Authority. I'm really, really honored to do that. It's an amazing podcast.
We are very excited to have you. So, Neil, before we jump into everything, who are you beyond the podcast guy label?
Who am I? It's such an existential question, and it's so difficult to answer. Who am I when I'm not the podcast guy? First of all, I'm a husband. I'm a dog dad. I'm a massive football fan, or as you would call it, soccer. But I actually do love American football as well, having lived in the States. And I just try to be a good person, I guess.
So now I have to know, who's your football team in the U.S., not soccer, like football?
This is going to be really divisive. Half of your listeners are going to hate me. Probably most of your listeners are going to hate me. It's the New England Patriots.
I won't judge you, but some of the listeners might.
So I did live in Rhode Island, and I started watching American football. It was 2001, 2002. Patriots had just won only one Super Bowl. Tom Brady was at the start of his career. I watched it with the family I was with, and they explained the rules to me. And I just obviously fell in love with the sport, fell in love with the Patriots. And being in Rhode Island, I became a massive New England Patriots fan. So I'm not just a glory hunter, even though I kind of stopped watching when they started being rubbish.
Yeah. I was a Patriots fan at one point, but if my husband listens to this, he'll kill me. I am now a Ravens fan.
Ugh.
So that's where we're at. Anyway.
At least you're not an
really
Eagles fan. That's the main thing.
I actually do like the Eagles. Okay, but we got to move on from football because people are going to start judging me. So, Neil, you reinvented yourself multiple times. Tell us about the moments when life forced you to start over.
The biggest and the most obvious one was when I lost my job. So my background, my career is in fundraising. I'd worked for Amnesty International, the Red Cross, Oxfam in Australia. Then I moved to New Zealand. I worked for some local charities there. That was my biggest passion. Then I was fortunate enough in Vietnam. I got a job working for the ILA Community Network, and we were helping give education to underprivileged children in Vietnam. And it was literally my dream job. In my first year, we raised $70,000. We built a new school in the Mekong Delta. I got to see the project from the beginning to the middle to the end when the brand new school opened, and we interviewed the kids. And yeah, it was just probably the proudest day of my life when that happened. And then, like everyone else, COVID happened, and unfortunately, slowly but surely, things went south. And by the end of my contract, they decided not to renew my contract. And so that was a big decision I had to make, big change in my life. And it took a few years. At one point, I was working 8 different jobs, just trying to survive, trying to find out who I was, trying to do everything. People thought I was so successful. I was doing so much. I was doing comedy shows. I was doing quiz nights. I was still teaching. I was trying to run this podcast business that I just started. And on the surface, it looked like I was doing a lot, and I wasn't doing it very well. And in terms of financially, I wasn't making a lot of money. And so then I had to really reinvent myself. And that's where I slowly but surely then became Neil Mackay, the podcast guy. But over the years, there's been so many. I left Scotland when I was 20. I moved to the States. That's how I became a Patriots fan. I moved to Rhode Island. Massive reinvention there. Then I went to Australia. I went traveling, ended up living there. Again, massive reinvention of who I was, what I did, and then became a fundraiser. And even then within that career, I had to change so many times. And yeah, but those would be the big moments. And the biggest one was definitely losing my job.
Wow. 8 jobs at one time is incredible, first of all. Second of all, I have so much respect for stand-up comics. How was that? Just curious, did you like doing that?
It was a dream come true. It was the most terrifying thing though I've ever done in my life. It's terrifying. So I'd wanted to do stand-up comedy for years. I loved comedians. I love comedy. I love going to shows. I just loved it. And it really helped change my life. Comedians like Bill Hicks opened my mind. George Carlin, all of these classic comedians from the kind of 90s and beyond. And so I wanted to do it for years. I got to the point where when we lived in New Zealand, my wife and I would go to open mic nights, and I had some notes in my pocket. I was ready to get on stage, and then I just chickened out. I just could not do it. The feeling in my stomach was just sickness. I'm not a performer. Going to America changed everything for me. Years previously, I'd worked at a summer camp, so I'd done performances for kids and things like this, but that was things that I would have never, ever done in high school or anything like that. So America really changed me. That was a big reinvention. And then with the stand-up comedy, I just could not do it. I was terrified. And we were now in Vietnam, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to try something different, even though I'd been wanting to do it for a long time. Same thing, going to open mic nights, had notes in my pocket, never really committed to doing it. And one night, eventually, it was a really quiet open mic night. There was only 2 or 3 people had showed up, and the comedian that was hosting it, she was like, "Oh, it's open mic. Does anyone want to get up and try it? We don't have many people tonight." So that was I'm doing it. So I got up, I had my notes in my pocket. I did it. It was terrifying, but I got a laugh right away. And yeah, I guess you could just say I was addicted from there on in. But so I am popping my comedic cherry tonight. I'm hoping it lasts longer than when I popped my cherry before. But it was terrifying. I would go to shows and feel sick in my stomach. I would be on the bike on the way to shows wanting to throw up. The moment of getting up on stage was terrifying. It was horrible. But by the end, and I stopped doing it a few years ago, but by the end, I absolutely loved it. Getting up on stage was the best thing. I was watching recently some videos of myself because it seemed like a different part of my life, and watching it and being like, wow, I could command a room. I could command a stage. I think the biggest show we did was 130, 140 people. I absolutely loved it by the end and got good at it, I guess you could say. But in the beginning, yeah, it's one of the most terrifying things ever.
Your story is so aligned with Inspired Authority. I'm taking notes because there's so much that I want to dig into. You mentioned on the surface, it looked like a success, but underneath it all, you were doing too much. And I love the story about getting uncomfortable and doing something that scares the shit out of you. Let's just be honest. I love that you thought about jumping for so long and then you finally did it. I think sometimes people think about jumping and then they get to the end of their life and they're like, I wish I just jumped. And so it's incredible to hear, A, that you've done so much in your lifetime. B, that you put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And while in the moment it might have been scary or you waited some time before you did it, you jumped and now you can look back and say, I'm so happy that I did that. Which version of yourself, when you look back, which version of yourself would be surprised at who you've become today?
My 15-year-old self.
Tell me more about it.
I can answer that quickly because it's something I've talked about with my wife. And I think one of the contexts is quite funny, quite sweet. My wife is stunningly beautiful. And I'll say to her, my 15-year-old self would not believe that you are my wife. Like, you are incredible. And we've done that thing. I've posted videos before of my 15-year-old self where I have acne and train tracks and terrible haircut, dyed blonde. Then I post a picture of my 15-year-old wife who's looks the exact same as she does today, stunningly beautiful, all of that stuff. And it's just so funny to look at these two people side by side. And thank God we didn't meet when I was younger because I would have had no chance. But so that's one of the things. But the 15-year-old self as well, I was very shy in terms of, and it's weird because I think back, I was quite outgoing, but in terms of performing, I remember watching my sister perform at a high school performance, a high school dance. She did Men in Black and she danced to it. And I remember cringing and feeling physically sick watching her perform because knowing that I could never get up in front of my classmates, in front of the whole school and do a dance, do a performance. And lots of people did that. And then it went on to when I went to university, I remember we were doing kind of icebreakers and things like this, and they wanted us to do a performance, just a silly thing as a class in front of people. And I had to take the professor aside and say, I literally can't do this. I don't want to be in front of people. And she or he, I think it was a she was lovely. She was like, no worries, you help your group make the performance. You don't have to be on stage with them and things like that. And so that was great. But I was the odd one out. Everyone else got involved with this, whatever it was, 2-minute silly performance. But I could not do that at all. So that version of myself, the kind of 15-year-old, when I had acne, train tracks. Sorry, my wife just laughed because I called it train tracks yesterday. You guys don't call them that. Braces, right? What do you call them when you have
Braces?
Yeah. I think we call them braces as well, but maybe more colloquially it'd be known as train tracks. So that 15-year-old version of myself, now looking at myself, would just be amazed at what I've done and who I've become.
So on that very topic, what's the difference between changing what you do, because you've changed what you've done for work quite a bit, and changing who you believe you are?
I think the big difference is lots of people move up in their career or they can move sideways in their job and that's fine. And I've gone through stages in my life where I'm so jealous of that. I'm like, why did I not do that? Why did I not have a career? I had a career, as I mentioned, with fundraising, but it was relatively short. I look at some people that finished college or university at 22, moved into a job, continually moved up, get more money, more status, all of this kind of things. And I've definitely had times in my life, and I'll probably have times again where I'm completely jealous of that. I think that's in terms of you can change your job, but in terms of changing who you are, I don't think I ever consciously did it, but I did. I guess I got to a stage in my life where I was really prepared to do things that scared me and pushed me out my comfort zone. And I guess the biggest one, there's different ones. So the biggest one would be at the summer camp in America. I remember the first time practicing a song on the guitar. I'm not very good at the guitar, but practiced a song with a singer and we did a performance on stage together. And that was probably the first real performance I ever did. And it took so much. Then moving to Australia. So what happened was I went to Melbourne and I'd when I've been traveling through Australia, I'd met these two girls who'd worked for fundraising in the UK, and they'd done street fundraising. Those people that you hate to see on the street with the clipboards that's trying to stop you. And I hated those people. When I saw them in Glasgow, you do what everyone does. You try and avoid them. You can't stand that they do this job. It's ridiculous that people get paid to do this. But then I met these two girls and they explained it to me, and I was like, that sounds pretty good. And I wanted to make a difference. I was getting to this age, I was 24, 25. I wanted to make a difference in the world. How do you make a difference? And this seemed like one way to do it is to help raise money for charity. But then I went on my traveling. I met them picking apples. I went on traveling. Then I got to Melbourne and I needed a job like all backpackers do. And I saw this ad for a marketing company and I went into the office, and then before you know it, they whisk you out the office and they take you onto the field, which is a street corner. It's all very cloak and daggers. And suddenly you realize, oh, this is face-to-face fundraising. They don't tell you that. They tell you it's a marketing job. And then the moment came where they said, okay, we want you to go and find talk to 10 people and find out the most embarrassing moment, write them down and bring them back. And I remember freezing for a second and thinking, there's no way I'm going to do this where you want me to go up to strangers on the street. And I was ready to just walk away. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. And so I was like, I won't swear. I was like, I'm going to do it. So I went and ran up and got 10 embarrassing stories, and I came back and I was like, I actually want this job. And so that was another big moment where I decided to push my comfort zone and do something that I wouldn't normally do. And then that led to my career in fundraising. And then everything with the podcasting was just doing stuff that, yes, I'm not comfortable doing. I'm not an expert in doing, but just pushing myself to do it. So I think that's the difference between just changing jobs and then changing who you are. You might not consciously think of it, but being prepared to push yourself and push your comfort zone to do something you've never done before.
Yeah, those are some really good stories and really good examples of having to evolve when you are trying to get to your next level. In your case, you're looking to make an impact, and in order to make that impact, you had to get uncomfortable. So that's a really good story. I will say they also trick a lot of salespeople with that marketing thing. So be careful with those marketing jobs.
The thing is, so I did that job for 4 years and I became a manager and built a team of salespeople, and I did all of those exact same tactics. And it's just one of those things where it works, right? And it's once you start to do it, you're like, okay, this works. And crazy story as well. That's how I met my wife. She came to work for me and she answered one of those ads, and somebody actually said to her, oh, it's one of those fundraising jobs. You'll never be able to do that. And so again, in her head, she was like, what do you mean I'll never be able to do that? And so she was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And thankfully she did prove them wrong. And yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
I love that. I love that fire of proving people wrong. And hey, look at where it ended up. So that's good. That's a great story. So Neil, a lot of people know that they're capable of more, but they're holding on to a old version of themselves that, quite frankly, they're outgrowing. Why is letting go of who you were or who you were thought to be so difficult for so many people?
It's so difficult to speak for other people. I think I was going to say not lucky, but fortunate enough that I've been able to change countries. So I've moved countries so many times. So I get to reinvent myself, or I've got to reinvent myself. I can do it I've done it over and over again. I think for some people, and I think of some of my friends who I love dearly, but they've had the same job. They've probably had the same bank account since they were 5 years old. They've had the same phone number since they were 17. They've gotten married. They've got kids. They've got a mortgage. They've got a house. They've got a car. I think it's not easy for those people to change. And so I don't think we can judge them on it. And again, it's something that I've over the years, especially during COVID times, I was like, should I have done that? Have I wasted my life? Should I have had a career? Should I have gotten the job and the car and the house and done all of that? And I wouldn't have had all of this life that I've had, but I would have had safety and security and all of this. But then I talk to my friends back home, and I feel like, not just them, I think a lot of people are like, I kind of maybe wish I had done something different. So I don't think there's a good answer for that. I just think it's inherently hard to do that because of the responsibilities that you have. But you can still do it if you really want to push yourself. And it's that difficulty is pushing yourself to do something uncomfortable, which, let's be honest, most people, we just want comfort. We want safety. We don't want to push ourselves to do something different.
It's true. And what I will say is the grass is always greener, right? I think people with straight hair want curly hair. People with curly hair want straight hair. And then the people that travel want to be home and have that security and have that structure. And then the people who have structure and they want to be spontaneous and travel and enjoy. So the grass is always greener, right?
100%, yeah.
Neil, you've built businesses, you've hosted shows, you performed comedy. You've consistently put yourself out there. What do you think people misunderstand about confidence?
That you have it. I mean, that's the thing, right? So, I mean, I clearly have confidence. Clearly, I couldn't do what I did if I didn't have confidence, right? But I think what people misunderstand is what's going on in the background, what's going on underneath the doubt, the fear, the down times, the difficult times, the times when you're like, man, I wish I wasn't confident. Like you're talking about the grass being all greener on the other side. I've definitely had times where I'm like, I just wish I had an office job where I put the numbers in a data spreadsheet and I don't talk to anyone and I do nothing. And when you do all those things that you've listed, there's lots of people that don't like me. I know for a fact there's lots of people, especially in the comedy scene, that don't like me. I don't really fully understand why. Maybe it's warranted, maybe it's not. That's fine. I've definitely probably pissed people off along the way, or there's people that just don't like me for whatever reason. And sometimes I think, why do I put myself in these positions? Why do I raise my head above the poppy fields? There's a thing in Australia called the tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that, where in Australia they
No.
love to tear down the tall poppies. And Australia has that kind of very egalitarian society that everyone should be equal. So if anyone gets too cocky or too confident, they'll bring them down because they don't want them to be the tall poppy. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, with confidence, the thing people misunderstand is just because you have confidence doesn't mean that you're arrogant. There's the other thing as well, because I think confidence can come across as arrogance. And I definitely worry about that. I wonder about that. Do I look arrogant? Probably. But I can't help it. But I know deep down I'm not arrogant. I don't know. This might make you laugh. I often obviously can consult with the oracle that is ChatGPT, and it knows me better than probably anyone else in the world knows me. And sometimes I'll ask it questions. And I often start it with, hey, I'm going to indulge in my narcissistic tendencies. And it jokes back with me. They've been like, you're not a narcissist. I know what a narcissist is this, which apparently the biggest thing is they don't have empathy. They don't question themselves. They don't think about other people. And you do all these things. So I know you're joking, but don't call yourself a narcissist. But I do genuinely think that sometimes, like, am I a narcissist? I actually don't know. Am I too confident? But so I think that's what some people don't understand about confidence.
Yeah, I will say other people's opinions of us are none of our business. Somebody said that to me on probably one of these podcasts where I was interviewing them. And the reality is that I really do take that to heart. Unfortunately, I can't control what people think about me. And at the end of the day, we are who we are. And yeah, I'm going to be confident, but I'm also going to have empathy. I'm also going to be humble. I'm also going to make sure that I consider other people when I'm making my decisions in my life because I care about people. But at the same time, I'm going to put myself first because at the end of the day, if I'm not filling my cup, I can't fill anyone else's. So that's what I've been really focused on when it comes to my confidence and going out there and doing what we're doing right here, which is having a podcast. It's scary. It's scary to post online. It's scary to put myself out there. It's scary to have these conversations. What if I say the wrong thing? The reality is I might piss someone off, but at the end of the day, this is what's best for me and I'm going to keep doing it. And then look at where we end up after this is we get more confidence, we get more experience. I get to have amazing conversations with people like you. It's all worth it at the end of the day. So, Neil, a lot of people, when they move into entrepreneurship, think, wow, I have all the time in the world now. What would you say are some of the standards that you've set for yourself and for your life that have made the biggest impact in your success?
Mm. I think just having high standards for yourself, but also having a positive attitude. So when I think of, so with fundraising, okay, so it was actually 100% commission as well. So you don't make any money if you don't make any sales. And I remember it was about my first or second week and I wasn't doing very well. And I'd had an argument with my girlfriend at the time the night before, so long before I met my wife. And I came in and I was talking to my manager and we were walking to the location and I vented or something. I was like, oh, we had an argument last night, blah, blah, blah. And I remember his reaction was quite visceral, kind of like taken aback. And I realized later on that, as you probably know in sales as well, you have to have a almost toxic positive attitude. And once I mastered that, once I was able to master my own feelings, my own thoughts, my own actions, and be able to be positive all the time when at work, my sales shot up, and suddenly I could master my own mentality. And if I needed a sale, if I could feel if I was down, if I was annoyed, and I was able to change that way of thinking and become more positive, and instantly good things happened. Once I realized that was my standard, was to control my own attitude, to be positive, that is what changed everything for me. So going forward to comedy, for example, I carried everything I learned through in face-to-face fundraising, through everything I've done since then, and it's helped me so much. So in comedy, one of the things I hated the most, so you'll probably know this from sales as well, you have an internal or an external locus of control, right? So for me, it was all about internal locus of control. I control everything. There are some things you can't control, but most things you control yourself. You control your own attitude. And I had seen that by controlling my own attitude, I got sales. And it was really easy in the beginning to be like, oh, this location is no good, or people are in a bad mood today, or that person looked to me the wrong way. And as soon as I was able to change my own thinking and then train my team to change their way of thinking, suddenly everything just snowballed. I got more sales, my team got more sales, everything went better. So then going fast forward to comedy, one of my biggest pet peeves was when I would hear a comedian say, like, oh, the audience, not a good audience tonight. Oh, and start to blame that external locus of control. I hate it. I hate it today as well. I hate when I hear somebody blame something other than themselves. And so I'd go to comedy shows and I would watch 3 comedians die. The audience looked terrible. The comedians weren't doing well. There wasn't a good reaction. But then I would watch the 4th comedian come up and absolutely kill it. The same audience. And they would be laughing so hard. Everyone in the room laughing, eating out of that comedian's hands. And I would use that story as an example for other comedians to be like, see, it's never the audience, it's you. You need to figure out, you've delivered the joke wrong, you've said it wrong. You either figure it out on stage or you figure it out for next time. What did you do wrong, or what could you do? Maybe not wrong, but what could you do differently? Because you can't use the excuse of, oh, it's not a good room tonight, because that comedian came up after you and they absolutely killed it. So even to this day in entrepreneurship, the buck stops with me. We've made mistakes with podcasts and we've done things wrong. And I'll just say, I made a mistake. It was my fault. I will never use an external locus of control. I'll never say, oh, the internet's bad, or I've been sick lately. Things have happened where I've been ill. I will never use that as an excuse. I will never tell somebody, oh, I was a bit ill, so sorry we didn't deliver that on time. I'll be like, sorry, we had some issues, we didn't deliver it on time, and fix it. And so for me, that's the standard that you need to set.
That's great. Thank you for sharing all of that. I am in the sales world and I'm a sales leader. So I'm going to cut that and I'm going to play it for all the salespeople because you're so right. If you go into a situation with a negative mindset, if you go into a room thinking, this isn't going to go well, or you're just feeling negative energy and you let it affect your energy, it's only going to make it more negative. But if you can be the light in a dark room, you can light that place up. So I love the idea that you share, which is control the internal, because you can't always control the external, but you can control how you show up and your attitude. And that is the presence pillar in Inspired Authority. So thank you for sharing that. So you've interviewed hundreds of people. What separates someone who leaves a lasting impression?
It's just vulnerability and opening up, because I've interviewed people before and they give short answers and they don't really tell you much. But I mean, even one I did a while ago as well, it was so practiced. And actually then in practice, in leading up to that interview, I'd watched some of the previous interviews and it was the exact same stories, word for word. It was just like the company kind of line, like the story. And do you know what? I probably do the same as well. The 8 jobs thing, I tell everyone that, but I think I tell it different every way, every day, every time, hopefully. But it is a true story. But this one, it was just very practiced, very rehearsed. Other ones, they don't open up. I think the best stories, the ones that leave an impression, is when you really open up to your vulnerabilities. And as me, as a podcaster, my style is, when I do podcasts, I will try and poke you a little bit. So the way I've always done it, it was subconscious at first, I think, and then it became more conscious, was we're going to have a really nice conversation. We're going to get to know each other. We're going to warm each other up. You're going to be really comfortable. And then once I feel that you're comfortable, I'm going to ask you a challenging question that based on what we've talked about or what I know. And I've never once had pushback. I've never had once. There's been times though, actually, where I've said off mic, hey, I'm about to ask you about your sexuality. Is that okay? And they'll be like, yeah, no problem. That's fine. And then I'll ask it. Other times I don't ask for permission because I know we've already got a good relationship. And the question is not anything like, it's never a gotcha. It's never like, well, I read that you poisoned children in your last job. It's never anything like that. It's more just that we're going to talk about something that might be a little bit uncomfortable. And people are always willing to open up. Nearly everyone's always open to willing up. Not everyone, but most people will open up. And those are the stories that you remember.
100%. And when you're vulnerable, people trust you. The more vulnerable you can show up and the more you can really just share your story in a way that is truly authentic is when people start to trust you. So when people are trying to build a community on social media, when people are trying to get people to engage with their content, the more you can tell stories that are vulnerable, the more people actually want to lean in and listen, because a lot of people hear their story within your story. And honestly, we're all just looking for connection at the end of the day. So that's really good.
This is the biggest challenge though, is for me anyway, is how do you be vulnerable and then be positive at the same time? Because I try and put out this persona of everything's amazing. Look at this. Because I've had this conversation literally just yesterday, even in terms of the podcast studio, is look how amazing this is. But then the people don't see the authenticity of the cables not working or things not recording or things just not plugging in properly. The hours I spent, we had a chat about the hours I spent setting up the light, which now looks so simple. It's just a light, you turn it on. But I have a time-lapse video of me watching a YouTube video, trying to figure it out, trying to set it up, connect it all. And we had a conversation about content marketing, and the person was like, you need to share that. You need to share the authentic self. That's what people connect with. And so I'm constantly, for me, it's a constant challenge between look at how amazing this is. I want to show you the finished product, myself included. Look at this. I'm so positive, with the reality of there's a vulnerable side to all of this as well. So for me, that's a constant battle, a constant challenge.
I agree that you have to show that behind the scenes footage. What's actually happening behind the scenes? Because on the surface, even this podcast, on the surface, it looks good and it feels good, but we spent a lot of time setting this up. So like the behind the scenes is what people want to see, because people want to know that they're actually able to do what we're doing here, right? So many people want to have a podcast, but they're scared to do it. They don't know where to get started. But like, I'm a sales executive. I don't know how to use technology. was pressing the wrong button to start this camera. That's the reality. Like, anyone truly can do it. So seeing the behind the scene footage and understanding what did it actually take to get here is what people do resonate with. So I'm going to take a page out of your book. I'm going to start sharing more of that behind the scenes footage. As you've had these authentic conversations, as you've had a lot of these podcasts and human connection, like you were talking about earlier with getting people to open up, what have you learned about human connection throughout your journeys with building all of these different podcasts?
I think we're all the same, right? For me, I'm very passionate about equality. I believe we're all the same, no matter what your race, religion, creed, sexual preferences. I've met so many people from so many countries, from so many backgrounds, talked to them as well over the years. And for me, it's just, we're the human connection. I think we can all connect. It doesn't really matter who you are. I don't understand hatred. I don't understand discrimination. I don't understand racism. I just don't understand it, because to me, we're all the same.
Couldn't agree more. That's beautiful, because I couldn't agree more with you. I just don't understand it. And we just need more love in this world. Neil, what's one thing that people can take away from what you've learned in your journey with podcasting, even if they never start a podcast? What are some of the key takeaways that you might be able to share for people from your experience?
To quote Ted Lasso, which I love, is be curious. You have to be curious. I really resonated with that scene. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso, then go watch it. You got to be curious. You got to get to know people, ask questions, which that's what being curious is. Ask questions of people, find out more about them. That's the big one. And then the other one is listen. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people don't listen, aka don't know how to converse. I don't understand when people can't converse properly, which is basically not listening when they, and I know lots of people like that. They ask a question, they don't really listen to your answer. They just want to say what they have to say. I mean, I've friends like that, to be perfectly honest. They ask you a question, they don't listen to what you say, and then immediately they start to tell you what they already wanted to tell you. I don't get that. And then I heard this said about somebody recently, and I was like, I really hope that applies to me as well. They said that this person, when you're talking to them, you feel like they're really listening to you, and they've given up everything else to focus in on you. And I was like, I think I do that. I don't look at my phone. I will put my phone away, or if I have to look at my phone, I'll say to somebody, hey, sorry, I have to just respond to this message right now, or whatever it is. I don't listen to other people. I don't know. I thought that was a great quality, that they were talking about someone else, and I was like, I really hope that's about me. Or not that it's about me. I hope that I do that.
Communication is one of the most important skills that you can have in your life, because the way that I see it, all problems and solutions are rooted in communication. So if you have a problem, probably a communication problem. And if you have a solution, you need to communicate to find that solution. So my opinion is that communication is absolutely critical. And I love what you're saying about listening to respond from the response of what you heard versus just knowing what you want to say. A lot of people will think of their answer while you're still talking, and that drives me crazy. The other thing is when people cut you off.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's what I learned from podcasting is active listening. You have to be listening to what they're saying, not just have it in your head, right? Oh, they're saying this now, I'm going to say this. It's like you have to react to what they're saying. So I don't know how much. Yeah, it's a big skill to learn from podcasting that you can use in real life.
So many skills. I totally agree. So if somebody does want to start a podcast, or if somebody does want to get on a stage and do stand-up comedy, or if somebody wants to do something that they've been dreaming about doing, but they're waiting for validation, they're waiting for someone to give them permission, what would you say to those people? They want to do it, they're just scared. What would you say to those people?
I think I had this conversation just literally yesterday with someone, and it's a reason why it's one of the best slogans probably ever created. It's just do it. You've just got to do it. There's literally nothing else I can say. There's no point me telling you any deeper, meaningful advice. You just have to do it. It's the only way. Do comedy if you want to do it. And if you don't like it, then you never do it again. Whatever it is you want to do, just do it and then figure it out after. Because that's the other thing, right? You never have all the answers before you start. So many people, and I know people like that they want to make sure that it's going to be perfect the first time. They want to have all the answers. They want to have all the pieces of equipment, even in the studio, right? I was like, just do it. I got started with 2 microphones. I bought the lights and the cameras, didn't have the cables, didn't have the light stands. Even now, I didn't have the mic stand up until 2 weeks ago. We're constantly getting better. If anything at all, just do it.
That's great advice. Now, I have to circle back to something that we've talked about, but now I need advice for myself because there's some of us in this world that want to do everything. And you've been there. You had 8 jobs at one time and you had to find a way to get focused. So for the people that want to do everything, what advice would you have for them?
I absolutely love this question because it is something that I tell people. And it's something that I learned from listening to podcasts, from making podcasts for lots of businesses and entrepreneurs. And it's something that you'll have heard before. And what had happened was I went away back to America. Actually, I went back to Texas to see my wife's family. And it was the first time I'd had a break in a while. I think it was one of the first times we'd gone overseas after COVID. We hadn't been back to the States in years because of COVID. And so it was the first time I managed to shut down a bit and just think. And so I had a bit of a break. And I remember sitting outside her uncle's garden in Texas and thinking to myself, and I was like, you know what? I just need to start saying no. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm doing too much. And I heard this on so many podcasts. I've heard it written down. I've seen it written down in books. And I didn't really know what it meant. And I was like, the 8 jobs I was doing, I was teaching still. I was doing comedy shows. I was running comedy shows. I was doing the podcasting. One of our podcasts was for pharmaceutical marketing, and they asked me to do some pharmaceutical marketing for them. So I was like, yeah, I can do that because we needed money, right? It was post-COVID and I'd lost my job. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. I was doing that, which was just freelance. Then I responded to a post about doing voiceover work. I do podcasts, so I was like, I can do voiceover work. Then they were like, would you actually like to make TikTok videos? And I was like, yeah, sure. Again, they were paying me for it. So I was like, so I was doing TikTok videos. What were the other ones? Did I say Quiznext? I can't even remember. But at one point, I'm not even exaggerating. I was doing 8 different things. I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning, jumping on my bike because everyone's on bikes here in Vietnam, heading off to teaching. I don't know how I didn't get in an accident. That was the other thing. I thought I was going to get in an accident because I was driving so quickly. I would drive to teaching. Then on my break, I would plan the quiz night for that night because I had to go host a quiz. Then I would go home and then I would go do another teaching somewhere else because it was all over the city. Then I would do some pharmaceutical marketing. Then I would make a TikTok video. Then I would go host the quiz. And it was just insane. And it was fun. I got a lot of energy. It was fun. But, then the next day I was on the street handing out flyers for a comedy show. Then I would host the comedy show, blah, blah, blah. 3 people would show up. You make no money. It was just ridiculous. And so eventually I was like, I just need to say no. And so from that trip back in America, came back. I very slow over the next few months, I quit doing comedy. I've never done it since. I quit doing shows. I quit my teaching job. I stopped making TikTok videos. The pharmaceutical marketing thing was only kind of short term anyway, so I never did that again. And slowly but surely wound everything down. And I made the decision when I was away, I'm going to focus on what I love the most. What's my biggest passion and what do I see as my long-term future? I don't see comedy as being a long-term future. I don't want to be famous. I'm not going to make a career out of it. I'm going to do podcasting. And so that was over the next few months, slowed everything down. And the change was immediate. I got new clients for podcasting. I'd been saying, how am I not getting new podcasting clients? Because I didn't have time. I literally sat down. I was like, I have 4 hours a week to do podcasting. I'm like, why is my business not thriving? Because I was too busy doing the other 7 jobs, which I kept saying yes to and kept taking up time. And as soon as I said no to everything else and started saying yes to that, things changed almost immediately. And it's still changing to this day. And I still have to tell myself, just say no. I get approached sometimes to do a quiz night at another bar or something. I'll say, no, I can't do that. We got approached a while ago to do some video marketing for a client. And I was like, no, we don't do video creation. We do podcasts. Come to the studio, we'll record your podcast. We don't do videos. So it's still something I have to do all the time, is just say no. So just do it and just say no is, I guess, my mantra.
What you were doing was wild. And setting boundaries is the stewardship pillar of Inspired Authority. So that is really good insight. What I will say is, I love that you took the time to go away. And what I think people forget is that you hear yourself the loudest when it's quiet. We spend so much time in front of the computer, in front of the TV, scrolling on the phone. We can't hear ourselves and what we want and what we need when we're overwhelmed by other distractions. So it was awesome to hear that you took the time, you went away, and you had time to think and to bring clarity to what you want. And look at where you are now with your thriving podcast business.
Yeah, thank you. And even now, I make the best business decisions when I have some time. There was a few months ago, I was on a plane and I didn't have Wi-Fi and I didn't have anything to do. I was on a plane for 2 hours and I sat with my notes, like writing down all these ideas. And I was like, I would never have thought of any of this if I was just doing my day-to-day, because again, you're so busy, you're always doing stuff in front of the computer. So yeah, I think I can see the benefit of company retreats and going away and just relaxing, taking some time off. It's something I still need to do constantly, but we can all benefit from it.
One small thing I do is when I get in the car sometimes, I don't play any music. I just sit with my thoughts. And that's where I get a lot of my ideas for any of my content, which I'm working on the content. I need to do more content. But when I have an idea, it's because I was silent and I just didn't do anything else, just drove. And I wrote down my notes and I created all these content ideas that are now sitting in my phone ready to be recorded. So now I have to take accountability to go record my videos. Okay. So, Neil, before we end this episode, through this entire conversation, you've provided some really great stories to people about how to stay focused and how to find your identity. What would you say to somebody who is maybe just stuck? They're in their career and they're trying to figure out what's next. They want to do all of these things outside of just do it, because you gave good feedback on just do it. If somebody is stuck and they don't really know what's next, any recommendations for them?
I think similar to what we talked about, take a break if you can. I know it's difficult, and that if you have kids, I mean, that's probably even more difficult, but if you can, even if it's an hour or two. One of the things I like to do here in Vietnam actually is there's spas everywhere. Is going for a massage. It's one of the few times I can shut my brain down because you're so overstimulated. Whether it's going for a massage, going to a bar by yourself, having a beer, I think it's doing something by yourself for however much time that you have, because I know that can be difficult. And saying what's feasible, what makes you happy. I think it's so difficult. I hate speaking for other people because everyone's lives are so different, and maybe you've got a job you don't like, but you have to do it because you make good money and you have kids. And I know in America as well, you need healthcare is such a big thing as well. I'm not going to sit here and be like, go quit your job and follow your dreams, because that might not be feasible, like realistically. But take that time. What do you want to do? What do you enjoy doing? Maybe it's you can start writing a book, or you can start a podcast. It's such a cliche, right? I'm going to start a podcast, but if that's what you want to do it. If you want to write a book, if you want to meditate, whatever it is, talk with your wife, your partner, your boyfriend, your friends, your family. Once you've had that time to yourself, I think it's taking the time to reflect and then yeah, what do you want to do? And then that's when it comes into, once you figure out what it is you want to do, then just do it, right? Then that's when it's the time to be like, give it a try, do it. What's the worst that can happen? I think as well, we all get probably scared, I guess, of failure is the biggest thing, but just be prepared to fail. So if you want to do comedy or a podcast, be prepared that it's not going to go well, but you'll have done it. That's the big thing, I think.
For sure. And I think it is understated to say your dreams out loud. We, a lot of times, don't talk about what we want out loud because we're scared to say it out loud because we're scared of failing or never doing it. And now I've said it out loud and now it's real. Do it. Say it out loud. But talk about with somebody you trust and somebody that's going to motivate you. I will say I've had a lot of dreams in my life, and there's been a lot of people who told me my dreams were dumb, who told me my dreams were unrealistic. Like, those aren't the people that pushed me forward and got me to where I am today. It's the people that I met, honestly, a lot of my friends in my older life that pushed me and told me, you'd be great on a podcast. I'll listen to your podcast. You should do it. Those are the friends that motivated me to do what I'm doing now. And I'm very grateful for those people. And I'm so happy that I said it out loud to those people. And they gave me the push I needed. I talk a lot about not wanting or needing validation, but it is very nice to have someone that gives you the little push that you need to just get going.
And without being too salesy, but on that note, goal setting, if that's where you get to, and I know it's not for everyone, but goal setting works. That was the other big thing I learned from doing sales. Vision boards work. I have a vision board. The things happen. As soon as you start to dream it, as you said, as soon as you start to tell people about it, as you write it down, you put a picture of it. I've set goals, that's not a word. I've set goals in the past and forgotten about them, and then gone back and looked at them, found my goals that I'd written down and been like, oh my God, that actually happened. And, it 100% works. Not 100% of the time, but 100% works. And it's that kind of thing of setting goals and not reaching them. You can set 100 goals, maybe you'll reach 10 of them. I don't know, set 10 goals, you'll reach 3 of them. 7 you won't, that's fine. But those 3 goals you might not have reached if you hadn't set 10 of them, that kind of thing.
That is such good feedback. I did my first vision board this year, so we'll see how it goes. So far, so good. But I will say same. I've written down goals in the past. I've told people of things I wanted to accomplish in the past. And 5 years later, it's, whoa, it happened. It's because you put it out into the universe and you said you wanted it. And then in your subconscious, you're like, oh, I want this and I'm going for this. Even if you're not working at it every single day, subconsciously, you know you want it and you will get it.
I'll show you my vision board, and it's just got green ticks all over it of things that have come true.
I love that. Okay, I'll take the green tick thing. I need to look at mine. Oh no, I'm looking at mine and it says gifts from the garden. I do not have a garden this year because I had to say no to that, as we were talking about earlier. Certain things have to go, but yeah, we're gonna have to worry on that one.
Change the date. It's always flexible. That's the other thing, right? You just change it to next year, or you take it off, right? Like goals change. It can be flexible. You don't have to stick with them, but setting them in the first place is what makes a big difference.
I love it. Thank you, Neil. This has been an incredible episode. We are so happy to have had you. One thing that kept coming up for me in this conversation is that finding your voice isn't always about speaking. Sometimes it's just about believing that what you say and what you feel and what you want in this life matters. Maybe your next level isn't waiting for more confidence. It's just waiting for the courage to stop hiding and to just start doing. Just do it, like Neil said. If this conversation resonated, please comment, share, subscribe. We have so many incredible episodes and so many incredible guests. And Neil's feedback today is so aligned with what we represent with inspired authority. And so again, if this resonated, make sure you continue to follow along with us. And if you have a friend who needs this reminder, share it with them as well. Thank you all again for joining us today. Neil, thank you for being here with me today, and I can't wait to see you all again soon.
You're very welcome. Thank you.